You know, it amazes me. It definitely amazes me how you got all these Louis Theroux dick riders all up on the bandwagon. That's right, fellas. This is part two. But yeah, you got Louis Theroux's stans and friends who are more than willing to argue people down when it comes to his documentary Inside the Manosphere. Some are even so retarded. Yes, you heard me. Some are even so retarded that they will even argue down the ones that are part of the Manosphere. Yeah, how fucking stupid is that shit? I'm a Louis Theroux fanboy. I'm a Louis Theroux fangirl. And we will argue down the ones that's in the Manosphere in regards to the Manosphere. They all need to have several seats and shut the fuck up forever. Because arguing with people that's within the space that's in question only shows your stupidity. Their stupidity. And as I said before, they on the outside looking in, yet somehow think they got the shit figured out until they open their mouth and they clearly don't know shit at all. And yes, even I had my run-ins with a few. Not even knowing that I'm, in the words of Grandmaster Flash in the Furious 5, I'm down by law and I know my way around. Some even try to make the argument that, but Louis Theroux didn't attack them, didn't call them names. He kept it professional. Yes, he did. Yes, he did kept it professional. Does that mean that his documentary Inside the Manosphere is 100% irrefutable? No. And why you got a punk ass male feminist in there riding his dick? A vast majority of people is actually picking this documentary apart. I mean, you got Rollo Tomasi, who is also part of the Manosphere, completely annihilating Louis Theroux's documentary. And keep in mind, Rollo Tomasi could have, would have, should have been one of the men Louis Theroux should have reviewed, but he didn't. Only because Louis Theroux wanted to cherry pick who he wanted in the documentary, in which that will completely debunk the documentary later on. Shoot, I was even surprised that Sargon of Akkad actually picked the documentary apart. And yes, for those y'all who want to watch those videos, I'll leave the link in the comment section. Go check those videos out and tell them JD Mouse sent you. But y'all already know this day would come. The actual Manosphere itself is now clapping back on Louis Theroux's Netflix documentary Inside the Manosphere. And no, don't start crying, don't start bitching. After all, his documentary was about the Manosphere, right? So that means the Manosphere has every right to clap back at the documentary. What, did these retarded folks thought that his documentary was irrefutable? Hell no. And before I begin, shout out to both the Poor Man Podcast as well as one of the many Manosphere content creators that I listen and subscribe to. Manosphere Highlights Daily. I'll leave the link to both their videos in the comment section. Go check them out as well. Time to clap back against this one-sided propaganda hit piece they call Inside the Manosphere. Let's go.
Have y'all seen that new documentary on Netflix that's about the Manosphere? It was done by Theroux, and I used to like a lot of his older documentaries, so it sucks that he decided to go this route.
The format seemed mainly a chance to embarrass the female guests. This is what when they talk about misinformation on the internet, this is what they're talking about.
Oh, enough already, Ellen DeGeneres.
More like Ellen DeGenerate.
Refuse to be lectured about the Manosphere by a man who looks like a lesbian.
And a man that's on the outside looking in, trying to argue. And yes, I forgot to mention this. Y'all see the title. Louis Theroux and Netflix's version of the Manosphere versus the actual Manosphere. My bad. Let's continue.
Huge Trump supporter. I have this stuff everywhere. I just came back from the inauguration. I've been a Trump supporter since 2015.
I wonder how old this is, because from what I know about Sneeko, he doesn't really support Trump anymore.
Invent, build, and maintain.
And on top of that, Sneeko resigned from the Manosphere. In fact, Sneeko left the Manosphere, I believe, back in either 2020 or 2021. So by him doing this interview, I got questions. But let's continue.
Society.
You know, and
yeah, it is.
So women do that too.
Well, no, not really. Actually, we have different duties to society. Like the male duty to society is to be willing to build, maintain the infrastructure, and be willing to die to protect society for mostly the benefit of women and children. The female duty to society is to pick men to have children with, to give birth to the next generation of society builders. On the male side, we have quite possibly the safest society in human history, but on the female side, we have a collapsing birth rate of about 1.5 kids per woman, and to maintain the population, you need 2.1 kids per woman. So it doesn't matter if women are going into the workforce to increase the GDP. If you don't have any children, then you're not going to have a society, because children are the future of society. And so he can sit here
and that's a natural fact. And yes, don't make me bring up the numbers either. Let's continue.
Play this game of we're going to point out the exception to the rule and act like that's the rule, because like 3% of these dirty jobs that actually keep society running are done by women. But women, for the most part, do the jobs that have air conditioning and pizza parties, pretty much daycares, to make sure that they don't have any kids. But cross-culturally, men are the ones that do the hard, dirty, dangerous jobs that maintain the infrastructure and build the infrastructure of society. That's just not even debatable. And both roles are important, because
there is no competition
maintaining a society when you don't have a society because there's no people in it. But if we're talking about who's actually doing their job, this is a problem that governments across the world have been trying to ignore, because it's for the most part a worldwide problem. But we've already hit catastrophic levels. And environments like the Manosphere are just a response to these issues that we see occurring in society that nobody, no governments or no politicians want to address. But they're obvious issues. But regardless of...
Straight up. And as I constantly tell these retarded fucks, the Manosphere is the effect to the cause. And you got all these idiots on social media thinking that, oh, if we go after the effect, that's going to end the cause. No, it ain't. Yeah, you got rid of the effect, but the cause is still there. And as long as that cause is still there, the Manosphere ain't going nowhere. The actual Manosphere isn't going nowhere, contrary to what these retarded fucks believe. But as I constantly stated, what they're trying to do, they're trying to eliminate the common cold by only taking cough syrup. Yes, the cough will be suppressed, but guess what? All the other symptoms are still there and you still feel it. Eventually, that cough will return. But what does these dumb fucks even know? Let's continue.
if they address it or not, here in America, we are at catastrophic population collapse.
Okay, 921, 922. Theroux, hit one.
The foolishness. Louis Theroux just dropped a documentary on the Manosphere called Inside the Manosphere.
Oh,
and if you've actually spent time in this space for more than 5 minutes, something about it feels off.
I was hoping to understand a little more.
Yes, it does feel off. I mean, I've been a MGTOW for 14 years. And believe me, nothing is new under the sun when it comes to me, period. Out the gate, let's continue.
What they appreciated in the Manosphere content.
Not because everything in it is wrong, but because it's looking at the loudest part of the Manosphere and pretending that's the whole thing.
Man, he's not dangerous.
Thank you for confirming that, Manosphere Highlights Daily, because that's exactly what I said in my review. The only thing that documentary did was cherry picked certain I'm gonna just say it exactly how it is. They cherry picked certain pickup artists and mostly grifters that really don't care about men's situations. And let's be upfront and real. Some of these grifters and pickup artists actually got beef with the other groups of the Manosphere, especially Andrew Tate here, in which Andrew Tate didn't even do an interview, and they making excuses about that shit too, in which he also explained on his Twitter X page. And this is where the complexity of the Manosphere comes in. What did Uncle JD said? Not all the groups of the Manosphere get along with each other. In fact, there are some groups in the Manosphere that is beefing with other groups, which now makes the situation more complex. But let Louis Theroux, Netflix, and all these other media retarded fucks try to tell it, oh, the Manosphere is just one big group. No, it ain't. It consists of separate groups that think differently from each other. That doesn't get along, and oftentimes some of the groups beef with other groups. And mainly the beef is so fucking stupid. Like, say, for instance, the pickup artists and the grifters got beef with us MGTOWs, in which we always constantly got to put our foot up their asses. To them, it's like, oh, the Manosphere is just big dick swinging contest. Oh, who has the biggest hardware? No one gives a fuck about that shit. And yes, even I'm saying this shit. Meanwhile, you got all these other retarded fucks who's trying to silence and censor, and the only thing they care about is, oh, I got the biggest dick of all the groups. Man, no one gives a fuck. Let's continue.
It will never be seen as successful. You can't be a little bitch. Man against women. It's attack on masculinity.
If your bitch is going to a club and you said no, destroy her.
Now here's where it gets interesting.
Or you could just leave her. You could just leave her.
Back in 20...
I agree on that. I mean, even what they say is questionable, even from other groups of the Manosphere. Let's continue.
2017, Cassie J made a documentary called The Red Pill, and she did something Theroux never really attempts.
Now, before we go further, now, not only have I watched the Red Pill documentary, but I actually got a bootleg version of it too. But ain't it funny? And shout out to Cassie J as well, because unlike Louis Theroux, who only cherry picked, Cassie J did her homework, did her research. She entered, and guess what? She entered the Manosphere and these male spaces and asked the questions more than trying to demonize. And what's more, and get this, fellas, because I know for the feminists out there, I know it's going to hurt. Cassie J started this documentary as a feminist, but after she finished the documentary, she completely denounced herself from feminism. Oops. Let's continue.
I was trying to understand how these, what I perceive to be women haters, could have so many followers.
She tried to understand the people she was interviewing. One of these documentaries tries to understand men. The other tries to warn you about them. One struggled to get screenings. The other ended up on Netflix.
Of course.
And that contrast?
Netflix is always going to Netflix. Trust me.
That tells you everything you need to know about.
Think about it. Think about it. Remember, this is the same Netflix that tried to push that propaganda series Adolescence. And this is the reason why I was wary of Netflix even making this documentary to begin with. They clearly have a bias. No different than all these other media outlets that tried to talk about the Manosphere, and even those retarded fucks don't know what the fuck they saying. Let's continue.
Of who controls the narrative. And halfway through Theroux's documentary, there's a moment that completely exposes the problem with how the Manosphere is being portrayed. Most people won't even notice it.
Well, there was a moment that you didn't see, because when he had an interview with Sneeko, there was a huge part of it where he lost a debate about transgenderism that he didn't include into the documentary because he knew that it would make him look foolish. So there was already misrepresentation from the beginning because they took out all the parts that they didn't want and only left in the parts that try to make the people who they were interviewing look bad. It was already misrepresented.
As I said, bias. Let's continue.
From the beginning, because they took out so much of it because it made him look bad.
Once you see it, you can't unsee it. Let's get into it. Now it's time for us to get into this and do what we gotta do. Because we many.
Goddamn right.
Manosphere highlights. Great channel.
I'd been learning about his ideological forefathers, the community of ultra-masculine influencers, sometimes called the Manosphere.
A group of influencers called the Manosphere. Now, fellas, pay close attention to what Louis Theroux is saying here, because he's gonna put his foot dead in his mouth by making assumptions. Even he doesn't know what the hell he's talking about. So I say, for instance, he claims that the Manosphere are all influencers. No, it ain't. And this further proves that he didn't completely delve into the Manosphere. He just cherry picked a bunch of influencers and then claimed that they are the Manosphere as a whole. Bull fucking shit. Let's continue.
And so I'd come to its spiritual home, Miami.
Come on, man.
Much of the
So I came to their spiritual home called Miami. So basically, Louis Theroux is saying that every group in the Manosphere, from the MRAs to the PUAs to the MGTOWs, you name it, to the red pills, you name it, are all in Miami. God damn it, I wish. I wish I was. The closest I ever came to Miami was on vacation, in which one of my haters, who can no longer say shit anymore, didn't get me locked up, and he's from Miami. But that's a whole nother story. Let's continue.
The sphere is made up of relatively uncontroversial comedians and podcasters who broadcast about women, fitness, and wealth to a mainly male audience.
I mean, at this point, anything that mostly men like, that's male-centered, that women don't like, is just being considered to be called Manosphere, just so that they can try to make it seem like it has some controversy attached to it. Like, God forbid, men have one place where they can voice their grievances. Like the Boy Scouts isn't even the Boy Scouts anymore. Since 1910, like 60% of our presidents that would have been eligible because the Boy Scouts was founded in 1910, 60% of our presidents were in some way involved with the Boy Scouts. And they took away the Boy Scouts. Like literally one of the most effective programs that takes young men and turns them into what society needs them to be was taken away from young men because we needed to be more inclusive. And then they act surprised when places like the Manosphere start to get more popular, when content like Manosphere content starts to get more popular. It's because they have nowhere else to go. And what they're never going to be willing to admit is that the Manosphere didn't create the problem. The problem created the Manosphere, and the Manosphere is a response to mostly feminism, which has now teamed up with the state, especially through the legal system, to objectively exploit men at this point. Feminism and the state have essentially teamed up to extract resources from men and redistribute them and give men nothing back in return. And guys are starting to realize how rigged it is.
Straight up. I mean, think about it. From 2019 all the way to 2024, you had feminism and the government holding hands in their desperate attempts to get rid of the Manosphere. From the McCain Institute to diverting men to the See Something, Say Something, you name it. Now, from 2018 or 2019 all the way up to 2024, each and every year, they always attempted to get rid of the Manosphere. And not only did it fail miserably, but more men started to look into the Manosphere, which grew their numbers. And I mean consecutive losses. From 2018 to 2024, how many years is that? 2019, 2020, 2021, 2022, 2023, 2024. Six attempts by both feminism and the government to get rid of the Manosphere. All of them result in failure. Six consecutive failures. And after Trump got in office and passed one of the legislative orders, which will prevent the government from censoring certain people and groups, now all of a sudden their little alliance they have is now broken up. Now they're on their own. Let that sink in. Let's continue.
It was this world and its motivations
You
I
must
was
have had
most
to take
intrigued
out the
by.
music so it wouldn't get
Let's break this
demonetized.
down.
The community of ultra-masculine influencers, sometimes called the
Ultra-masculine.
Manosphere.
Already wrong. The Manosphere isn't a community of influencers. Influencers are the product of the Manosphere. They
Very
are the
well put.
loudest voices. Sure, the ones who make the most noise,
Right.
get the most clicks,
Right.
generate the most controversy. But they are not it. Let's continue.
And so it
Facts. Which proves exactly what I said during my review. Louis Theroux did not thoroughly went deep inside the Manosphere. And as I said before, he did not interview a single PRA, a single red pill, a single MGTOW, a single black pill. I'll even go on to say he didn't even interview none of the incels. He only interviewed certain PUAs and grifters and then try to make it seem like that is the Manosphere as a whole. And once again, Manosphere Highlights Daily completely debunked that claim. But that's not all. There's more.
come to its spiritual home, Miami.
Miami? Miami, the Manosphere doesn't have a spiritual home. It's decentralized by nature. It exists in forums, in comment sections.
But the reason why they always make like Andrew Tate and Sneeko the face of it is because they have a younger audience, and because they've tapped into a younger audience, they know the young men are the future and are really the only ones that can do anything about this. So they make people like Sneeko and Andrew Tate like enemy of the state number 1 and number 2. Really just because they have a younger audience. But this...
And Poor Man Podcast isn't lying about that, but there's only one problem. They're trying to make them the face of the Manosphere because these retarded fucks is so desperate. It's so fucking desperate for someone to be the leader of the Manosphere. Whether it's Andrew Tate, whether it's Sneeko, whether it's Fresh and Fit, you name it. But there's a problem. And I've already pointed this issue out. There are no leaders in the Manosphere. And as well as I also gave the benefit of the doubt. In order for one to be the leader of the Manosphere, that said person has to have the respect of all the groups of the Manosphere. No, not just the pickup artists, but all the groups. MRAs, MGTOWs, red pills, black pills, all the groups of the Manosphere. Then and only then will it be where they will have an official leader. But because none of the groups get along with each other in the Manosphere, that whole entire leader bullshit flies out the window. And fuck no, nobody's trying to hear shit about leaderless or sub-leaders or whatever dumbass excuse they want to come up with. There are no leaders. End of story. Let's continue.
This guy, this Louis Theroux guy, he just can't compete with the amount of output that's going to come back at him. Like, sure, Netflix sponsored this and he got paid a bunch of money to make this shitty documentary, but the amount of content creators from this decentralized manosphere, he just can't compete. He's about to get ratioed. For sure.
Discord servers in the minds of millions of men quietly questioning the world they were handed. But sure, Miami, where the influencers live. Keep going.
Much of the Manosphere is made up of relatively uncontroversial comedians and podcasters who broadcast about women, fitness, and wealth to a mainly male audience.
Relatively uncontroversial. That's the concession. That's him admitting that most of this space is just normal guys. Talking about self-improvement, talking about health, talking about building a life. But he's not here for that.
But at its edges is a community of more extreme content creators. It was this world and its motivations I was most...
And that's another thing I'm going to talk about as well, because if that's the case, why is Louis Theroux only focused on the grifters? Why is he not seeking out the ones who are not controversial and the comedians? No, that will go against their propagandic narrative of the documentary. He can't go and review them. So what does Louis Theroux do? He would rather go interview the grifters of the Manosphere. Yes, I said grifters. Let's continue.
Intrigued by.
There it is. He admits it out loud on camera. He's not here to understand the Manosphere. He's here to explore the edges, the extremes, the controversial content creators.
That's a good
and
catch.
Then he named the documentary Inside the Manosphere. The foolishness. Imagine if someone made a documentary called Inside America and spent the whole time in a maximum security prison.
Now, being inside the Manosphere, that's egregious work, brother. That's an egregious pause.
That's propaganda for you. That documentary is only trying to push a narrative, not trying to talk about the Manosphere as a whole. But let's continue.
Inside America, or would it be inside America's prisons? Theroux didn't make.
Now let's go back to what Manosphere Highlights Daily just described, because what he just said described this documentary to a T.
Imagine if someone made a documentary called Inside America and spent the whole time in a maximum security prison.
Now, being inside the Manosphere, that's egregious work, brother. That's an egregious pause.
That'd be inside America, or would it be inside America's prisons? Theroux didn't make a documentary about the Manosphere. He made a documentary about the Manosphere's most controversial influencers, and those are not the same thing. The foolish
Facts. And it's exactly as I stated. He didn't interview the Manosphere as a whole. He cherry picked certain grifters and bad actors of the Manosphere, and is trying to paint the Manosphere with a broad brush, claiming that this is the Manosphere as a whole. Bullshit. Let's continue.
After protracted negotiations, I'd arranged 2 days of filming with an influencer named Harrison Sullivan. I'd arranged to go on Myron's podcast, given it is widely viewed as one
All
of the most pointless
grifters.
shows in the entire
It's
Manosphere.
widely
The most
viewed.
popular and notorious goes by the name Sneeko. He turns down most mainstream media requests. To my surprise, he agreed to meet me.
I wonder why.
Back for a second. There was a time when the Manosphere understood something crucial about survival. You don't talk to the mainstream. You remember men going their own way? Not influencers, not content creators trying to go viral. Just men who quietly decided to opt out of a system they saw as rigged.
Yeah, really, historically speaking, the reason why that was the case is because if you were to go on any mainstream platform, all you would do is garner hate, regardless of how nice you were in terms of like explaining the things, trying to be gentle with explaining the things. Anytime you say that women are responsible for anything negative, you're going to garner a bunch of hate, especially in this time. And what would happen is you would essentially get kicked off of YouTube, basically. So you would essentially lose your livelihood for going onto these mainstream platforms. You would put yourself as a target.
They had channels, they had communities, they had conversations that helped thousands of men feel less alone. And then one guy, Big John from MGTOW's Freedom, decided to go on CNN.
Today, I'm jumping into the lion's den.
Yep, I remember that. I remember that segment, and I still shake my head to this very day. I'll explain more after this.
You know, people are gonna say, "Oh my God, how did you sit on the same couch as that John guy? Such a jerk."
He thought he could explain men going their own way to the mainstream, humanize them,
Nope.
make them understand. Big mistake. After that CNN piece dropped, MGTOW was officially labeled a hate group. Every major men going their own way channel got demonetized. The algorithm shadow banned them. Years of community building wiped out overnight. And I'll never forget what dirt-flinging monkey said in response. He made a video addressed to Big John, and he quoted the most important rule in cinema history. Fight Club, rule number 1. You don't talk about Fight Club. Fight Club, rule number 2. You do not talk about Fight Club. That was the lesson. The mainstream.
Now don't get it twisted. Us MGTOWs is still around. We haven't gone nowhere. This is why these retarded fuck ass haters have a hard time trying to stop us. And believe me, I've seen it all, been through it all. Each and every retarded fuck trying to come on, trying to shit on MGTOW and all that type of stuff, all got silenced. Period. No, MGTOW didn't go nowhere. We're still here. But let me go ahead and say this off the gate. A lot of the MGTOWs was pissed off at Big John, myself included. Why? Why in the world would you agree to go on an interview with us with CNN with CNN, and what's more, CNN had the gall to send one of their reporters who was a feminist. Yes, you heard me. CNN one of their reporters who was a feminist to do this interview with Big John. At that point, all of us MGTOWs knew the shit was a setup. And what really pissed off the MGTOWs even more was that Big John didn't even come to us with his idea. Nope, he didn't come to his fellow MGTOWs to console this decision. He made this decision on his own free will. Because of this, because of his decision he made by himself, his decision resulted in MGTOW being a hate group, in which even to this day, we challenge those claims because, after all, those claims only came from one MGTOW out of the many. They scared to defend their own claims on that matter. This is why you got retarded folks thinking that, oh, they're going to stop MGTOW, or we're going to put an end to MGTOW, but MGTOW still keeps going strong. It's just that we trying to avoid any other media contact. This is the reason why the vast majority of MGTOW are under the radar. Some are making moves strategically in silence. So no, MGTOWs have not gone away. Some are in the shadows. It's just that some of us just choose to continue on dropping facts the way it is. This is the reason why our haters think MGTOW is dying. No, it ain't dying. No, not at all. We're now in the shadows. And no, we ain't looking for media attention either. But let's continue.
Doesn't want to understand you. It wants to expose you, label you, destroy you, so you stay in the shadows. You build in the dark. You protect your community by keeping it out of the spotlight.
And this is one of the issues that pops up when you do this to specific groups. And regardless of if you agree with it or not, I'm not talking about the actual thing. I'm just saying that this is an example of exactly what I'm talking about. Like when the weed people in the early 2000s got pushed into like a subculture, they went into these back forums and they were having these discussions, really sharpening their arguments as to why weed should be legal. And really it was because everybody in the mainstream made fun of them so much and pushed them into that subculture and were so unwilling to have the conversation that the mainstream never sharpened their talking points. But these people that were now pushed into this subculture, they got into these back forums and they started to really sharpen their arguments. And because the weed people were pushed to the side and the mainstream never studied their arguments and they never got counter talking points, by the time the weed people got into the mainstream, weed was legal within a couple of years because they were just completely toasting the anti-weed people, because the anti-weed people got so comfortable with just shaming and ridiculing instead of coming up with good arguments that by the time the arguments got brought to them, they had no counters for it. Now, I think that's where the Manosphere is. I think like a low-level debater in the Manosphere could completely torch almost anybody in the mainstream because they've never even studied the Manosphere talking points. All they do is...
And that's a fact. These haters should definitely take notes, because especially the ones who calls themselves pro-censorship and all that type of shit. Even if they do get rid of the male spaces off of social media, they won't get rid of them at all. And there's always going to, and as that saying goes, you cut off the head of a hydra, two more takes its place. Meanwhile, shit is getting done behind the scenes, in the back alleys, in the backwoods. Now it's to a point to where now it's down to a point to where they can't use the same arguments anymore. The shaming, the ad hominem attacking ain't working. And now everybody's now starting to see these male spaces such as MGTOW for exactly what it is, not how these retarded fucks like it to be. And yeah, I know it hurts their asses to the core, but let's continue.
Try to shame people in the Manosphere, and they push them to these outskirts where the Manosphere people have gotten really sharp with their talking points. I'm telling you right now. And if you're talking about a high-level debater in the Manosphere, oh, they're running circles around anybody in the mainstream. And this is why you'll never see people like Matt Walsh or any of these like mainstream Republican guys or conservative guys debate people like Andrew Wilson, because they would get cooked. And Andrew Wilson isn't even really all the way red pill. Andrew Wilson is just like more of a Christian ethicist, right? But either way, he's at least studied the red pill arguments to the point where he understands that there's some validity to them, a lot of validity to them, and he could use those arguments to argue almost anybody on the conservative side. People in the mainstream wouldn't even stand a chance because they never even studied it. They never even came up with counter arguments. All they've done has mocked it and shamed it. So they haven't even listened to it. So if they ever had to listen to it or lend a listening ear or actually go into a formal debate, they wouldn't stand a chance. And this is why you see people who are in the mainstream always try to avoid having these conversations with people who are really good debaters with these topics.
Yep, they ain't going to debate Rollo Tomasi. They ain't going to debate Jordan Peterson. They're not going to debate Matt Walsh. They're not going to debate none of these guys. Because they're scared to debate those guys, because if they ever debated them, they will lose their goddamn narrative. The propaganda train will derail. This is the reason why it's so easy for them to pick grifters and try to pull that stunt, knowing good and damn well the shit still ain't gonna work, because, as I said before, Louis Theroux made a documentary about the Manosphere, but guess what? The Manosphere has every right to clap back against that documentary if that documentary is either bullshitting, pushing lies, or spreading half-truths. Or in this situation, the documentary is pushing propaganda in order to have a narrative. Let's continue.
Topics. And if they do, it's always heavily edited.
Rule. Now look at the Manosphere Theroux document.
Ellen
So why
DeGeneres.
get her on the screen then?
Clout.
Chasing her clout.
Bro, this guy isn't even in the Manosphere, bro. This is just a guy who started live streaming and picking up women. That's not necessarily Manosphere just because he's picking up women. He was never in the Manosphere.
Yeah.
Oh, damn. Poor Man Podcast picked up on something I didn't. So this guy's not even Manosphere at all. So why is he on the documentary if he's not Manosphere? And just like that, we got ourselves yet another debunk. Let's continue.
Views, which it did.
These guys are not hiding. They are performing. They want the attention. They want the controversy, because attention today is currency. Views turn into subscribers.
Right.
Subscribers turn into revenue. So of course, influencers will sit down with a documentary crew. Exposure helps their brand, but that creates a strange situation. The people most willing to...
Like how Eazy said on his diss track to Dr. Dre. That same album you talking about spraying me is the same album that's paying me. It's just like that, but it's the grifter version of it.
Here in documentaries
Exactly.
are often the ones who benefit the most from the spotlight.
Exactly. Like, there are people who care about these topics so much but don't even want to be out there because they're not even looking to be famous. Like, you have channels like Manosphere Highlights Daily. I think there's like Taylor the Fiend is one of them. There are so many of these channels that are like Manosphere channels because they're trying to address these issues, and they don't even care about the influence, so much so that they never even show their faces. You don't even know who they are.
Which means the documentary
Facts.
actually focuses
Because it's more
on
about
the
the
performance,
issues.
not the deep conversations
Right.
underneath.
It sounds like, are you even in the Manosphere? Not really.
I guess so.
No.
I mean, I think that
You guess so, Sneeko? Because as I recall, you left the Manosphere back in 2020, 2021. Now you don't know if you are or you aren't? That don't make no sense, Nico. Let's continue.
That kind of graduated. A lot of people that were in that space are now in politics, and everybody in the Manosphere is just people online who are trying to make a buck, selling ideologies and people.
No, Sneeko. That would be the pickup artists, and the pickup artists, these dating gurus and grifters such as yourself that's trying to make money. And oftentimes, y'all way of making money is not even helping these men at all. And I'm going to be brutally honest and say that shit. So no, don't try to lump all the groups of the Manosphere together with y'all, because we're not doing it in the same way y'all doing it. Y'all in it for the money. We're in it to help. We're in it to help better men out here. So no, don't try to put us all in the same boat as you. Let's continue.
Heard all the talking points already.
This moment in the documentary is actually one of the most revealing. Sneeko says the Manosphere kind of graduated, that people moved into politics, that a lot of creators are now selling ideologies online.
Yeah, well, it was really interesting to see how many people were surprised that Manosphere, like a lot of people in the red pill or the Manosphere space, are like more conservative, because a lot of the things that we talk about are social conservatisms, right? Like when you talk about trying to bring back the American family, when you're talking about family structure, when you're talking about women being less in the workforce and being more, doing more domestic labor, like that type of stuff, that a lot of those things come from more conservative ideas. So I'm not surprised at all that a lot of the red pill people, when they moved into politics, they were more on the conservative or Republican side.
Actually, not all the groups in the Manosphere are even political at all. I know as MGTOWs, we don't have no I know some of us MGTOWs, we don't even have a political side. I mean, look at me. I'm unaffiliate. I'm neither Republican nor am I Democrat. I'm not a conservative nor am I a liberal. And that's just the way I like it. But these retarded folks think that, everybody in the Manosphere has a political side. That's false. While at the same time, some of these retarded folks claim that they themselves are non-affiliate, then want to turn around and want to pick a side. Yes, the hypocrisy is real on that shit. Let's continue.
But I think now even you see an even bigger shift. You see an even bigger shift because I think these people have realized that even moving into politics will never solve the problem, because even the people who are on the Republican or conservative side fail to address any of these issues to any degree. You don't even hear people talk about the divorce rates or marriage or the destruction of the American family as an issue anymore. And I personally think it's one of the biggest issues facing America. I think
straight
that
up,
the first level of governance is the family, and if you can't recognize good governance in the family, you'll never recognize good governance at the federal level. And I honestly think the deconstruction of the family and the indoctrination of kids going into the public school system because of the deconstruction of the family has really made society a lot weaker and more exposed to exploitation from the powers that be. Because historically speaking, when you have strong families, some of the stuff that our government is getting away with, we wouldn't even have tolerated. People were drug out of their homes and hit over the head when you had strong masculine men that had families to protect and had an investment into society. But now with the deconstruction of families, you don't really have that as much. And so these people who are in power have gotten very comfortable, almost to the point now where they don't even fear the people anymore. And so that allows them to operate with a different level of boldness that they never operated with. But either way, what I'm saying is it's not surprising to me that a lot of the guys in the red pill moved more to the conservative side when they thought that politics was going to solve the problem. But even then now, a lot of them are starting to realize that none of the politics, regardless of on the right or left, is going to solve the problem because they don't even address the problem.
Shoot, some of us been figured that shit out. That's the reason why we're unaffiliated. That's the reason why we're unaffiliate. Fuck the Republicans, fuck the Democrats. Well, that's how I see it. Let's continue.
realizes it or not, that statement says a lot, because the original Manosphere wasn't built by influencers chasing views. Right. It was built by men dealing with real consequences. Divorce court, custody battles, fathers losing access to their kids, men trying to rebuild their lives after systems they trusted turned against them. Yep. Those conversations weren't entertainment. They were survival. That's the part Theroux never really explores. Because survival stories are quiet, they are complicated, and they don't always make good viral content. But the audience listening to these conversations, they're still real. When someone watches a chaotic live stream, they're watching for entertainment. But when a man watches a red pill video, very often he's looking for answers. He's confused. He's struggling. He's trying to understand experiences nobody else is willing to talk about. And whether,
a little bit of both. I think that I have in my audience, especially a lot of dudes that are just married guys that just watch it for a little bit of entertainment and to stay updated with what's going on in these types of systems.
Whether it's genuine or just performing, the audience's questions are still real. That's the layer the documentary barely touches. Now, some of you watching, you already know what time it is. You've been in this space for many years. You're not confused anymore. You're not struggling the way you used to be. You're here for your red pill vitamins, just like going
straight up. And as I said, I've been in here for 14 years, and I've seen it all, heard it all, been through it all. And as I stated, ain't nothing new under the sun for me. Now I'm in a position to help other men, whether these crybabies like it or not. And this is one of the really many reasons why it's going to be hard for them to try to get rid of male spaces. They only focus on the grifters, thinking that if we get rid of the grifters, we're going to get rid of everything. No, you won't. Because the vast majority of us in the Manosphere, we're not grifters. We ain't doing this for money. In fact, some of us, including myself, we don't even ask for money to do this shit. We're doing this shit in order to help others in their binds and situations, and helping the rest to try to avoid it. And this is what these retarded fucks, the news media outlets, even the media in general, fails to comprehend out the gate. But I'm going to stop it right here. Now let's see these retarded fuck ass Louis Theroux stands and friends try to debunk this shit, especially coming from the Manosphere itself. The actual Manosphere, not the Louis Theroux version of the Manosphere. Because Louis Theroux's version of the Manosphere is absolute bullshit. Yeah, I said it. Fuck your feelings if you're mad. But what I said, the Manosphere was going to clap back on that documentary, right? And they did. I'm not the only one. Poor Man Podcast ain't the only one. Manosphere Highlights Daily ain't the only one. The actual Manosphere that's in it to help out other men, not the clout chase. They're clapping back on this documentary because they know good and damn well this documentary doesn't represent the views and the opinions of the Manosphere as a whole. Bottom line, regardless of what these retarded fucks have to say, regardless of what these femitards have to say, regardless of what these other news media outlets has to say, or what these brain dead idiots who get their information about the Manosphere by secondhand nature, by third party has to say. And believe me, no one cares what these women got to say, because most of these women are straight up feminists or man haters. So of course they're gonna have their mouth open about some propaganda documentary. But I digress from that. I said what I had to say. Again, shout out to Shout out to the Poor Man's Podcast and Manosphere Highlights Daily. If y'all want to watch their video in its entirely uninterrupted, I'll leave the link in the comment section. Go check it out. Tell them JD Miles sent you, as well as I'm going to post some other links as well in the comment section. Straight up. With that, Louis Theroux inside the Manosphere has been debunked by the actual Manosphere. In the story, I said what I had to say. I'm done, and I'm out this bitch. Later.